Welcome to this week's edition of Auto Insiders with Ray Shefska. And as I do every week, I'm going to steal another line from David Letterman. My next guest needs no introduction. And much like Cher, he is known by just one name. It's Farzad, ladies and gentlemen. Farzad, welcome to Auto Insiders. How are you today?
Thank you so much for the invite. I feel like I'm Cher at David Letterman right now. This is incredible. Thank you so much for that incredible introduction. It's an honor. Truly, it's an honor. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you. And I do try to fit as many Hollywood types and TV and radio types into my introductions as I possibly can. But you truly, you are one of the few people, and it's probably because a lot of people would have difficulty pronouncing your last name, which is Mesbahi, so that everybody just knows you as Farzad.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. It's very convenient. We were talking before we went live. It's like, my name is it's tough to pronounce. So I was born in Spain, not native to Spain. I live in the States for well over a decade now, not native to the States. And it's, it's one of those things I've just had to I got used to people just pronouncing it however it's pronounced. And I must say your pronunciation is definitely at the top. So thank you so much.
I want you to know that flattery is going to get you everywhere today.
That's why I'm doing it, bro.
You mentioned something that I found fascinating when I read your bio, and that is that your family is emigrated from Iran.
Yes.
Am I saying Iran correctly?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because I don't know whether it's Iran or Iran, but I think it's Iran.
Yeah.
And they emigrated to Spain, and you were born in Spain. And I would guess that most people just figure, well, you were born here. It's quite the life you've led so far. I mean, you're a relatively young person. You were born in '87, so that makes you like what, almost 36 years old, I think.
37 in January.
30. Yeah. Okay, so. I mean, you've really covered quite a bit of the globe.
I have, and I consider myself very lucky to have been exposed to the different cultures that I have. Yeah, my parents, they left Iran in '79 during the Iranian Revolution, so they went to Spain to try and pursue a higher education, and that's they were one of the very few countries at that time where were accepting Iranian immigrants. So. They chose there, and they started their higher education there. Then my brother and I were born in Spain, and then in '99, my parents moved us to America to pursue the American life. And what is it now? So '99 we moved here, and now it's 2023. So 24 years later?
24 years, yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm doing YouTube and living a life well beyond what I thought I could, and I feel like the most fortunate person on earth. I truly do.
Do you think of maybe some of your successes as people are just attracted to your I want to say your personality? I mean, you're an easy person to talk to. You make those who are conversing with you feel comfortable. Do you think that translates into YouTube and what you're doing there?
Well, I really appreciate that. That's really kind of you to say. I think. I think I do have a sort of an ability to. I'm like a conversation person. I've always enjoyed talking with people. I love just talking with people, learning more about them, sharing my thoughts and ideas, hearing the other side of the story. I've always been very curious from that perspective, and generally, I just really love people. I just feel like I feel like I have a connection to people in some way or another, especially in this day and age where we seem to be very divided. I feel like I've always been the kind of person that's looking for something in common with everybody. I'm the kind of person that can go in a random bar in middle of nowhere anywhere, and I can look completely like different from everybody else at that bar, and within 10 minutes I'll be talking to everybody because I know there's something there, and that's what I seek, that commonality with people constantly.
And you're right. I mean, we do seem really divided as a people, and yet some people just have an innate ability to to bridge those divides and spark conversation and bring people together. And I'm not saying this to blow smoke up your. I think I'm allowed to say ass on my own podcast. I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass. But,
we're about to find out.
Yeah, we will. But I see you as one of those uniters, one of those people that has the ability through conversation to bring people together rather than allow them to cleave themselves apart, if that makes any sense.
Well, thank you, Ray. That's again, that's super kind of you to say. I think in the realm that I cover mostly, which is electric vehicles, Tesla, and all that stuff, one of the things that I've made an effort to do was to understand the entire auto market. Even though I'm specializing in the electric vehicle market, I'm making an effort every single day to understand the entire auto market so that I can have conversations with everybody, not just with like EV enthusiasts or say Tesla enthusiasts, because in my opinion, we're going through a very fascinating shift in the auto market, the way I'm reading it. But I feel like it's the best way I can tell the story of what's happening or what I think is happening is if I understand the entire story. And so my natural inclination to want to learn things that are outside of, say, my expertise or outside of what I usually focus on, I think is what makes sort of some of my content work. It's because I can tell the full story in a way. I understand both sides in a way. And even though I might have, say, maybe a bias or something towards the EV side that, where I think, hey, I think this is the technology for the future, I'm still understanding where their weaknesses are and where the people from the other side are coming from. And I think all those things together make for, at least it gives me the best chance to be as honest and convey the full picture to people as I possibly can.
You just said something interesting there, at least very interesting to me, and that is that you sort of think, I think if I heard you correctly, that EVs are the vehicles of the future. It's
Yes,
it's the way of the future. Are there any other alternative fuel sources that you see? Maybe not on the horizon per se, but further out, that you think could end up challenging EVs somewhere down the line? Or do you really just envision EVs as being the mode of transportation for the next 50, 60, 70 years?
That's such a good question. I think so I think about it two ways. The first way I think about it is that when it comes to battery technology, we're still early days. So we haven't really squeezed out every single penny we can from batteries. If you say compare the battery technology to the ICE, the internal combustion engine, we've had about 100 years of the supply chain growing, the engines being refined and made more efficient, figuring out ways to create synergies and harmony between the companies where they share a lot of platforms to squeeze every bit of profitability they can and bring the cost down as much as they can. The gas vehicle market has had the luxury of 100 years to get to this point. Plus the gas stations, were built like the thing that came first was the gas car, so the gas station can be built, right? And if you look at the EV side, battery days are, in my opinion, they're early days. We still are going down this cost curve because only single-digit % of the total vehicle market globally is EVs. It's like 1% of the total global, every single car in the world. And so from that perspective, you have 99 times more to go before you can replace the gas fleet. And when you do that, you're building up your supply chain. You're getting more factories out there that are localized. You're finding out new ways of building batteries. So like now we're on the LFP technology, which is lithium iron phosphate, which is way cheaper to produce than a cobalt-based battery, let's say. And I still think we're very far away from maximizing that technology, where maybe a 300 to 500 mile EV that costs less than $25,000 can very much be achievable in the next 10 to 20 years. And once that becomes the case, then in theory, you'll have like true mass adoption of this technology. And then when you have true mass adoption, your supply chain grows, your localization grows, your transportation gets more. It's a sort of it's a flywheel of efficiency from that point forward. So I think we're ways out. It's going to require some sort of technological revolution, I think, and some other front to replace batteries. But I think batteries are here to stay for a really long time.
Okay, so certainly, if I heard what you're saying, at least for your lifetime, EVs will be the evolution.
I believe so.
And there could be something beyond your lifetime that will be totally different than EVs, but we ain't worried about any of that at the moment.
I would definitely say that's the case because we're still such early days in EVs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I've got to ask you a really, this is going to sound off the wall, but I can't help myself because I don't do a lot of research for these shows. People say to me, well, what kind of and I don't. I just, I ask questions.
I love that.
But
it's great.
Well, because I don't know where the conversation is going to take us. But I did read your bio. And I want to know how the hell you get from pet food to electric vehicle. Okay. You have to get me to understand where you start your career after going to Penn State. You start your career in pet food, and suddenly you are a sought after resource when it comes to electric vehicles.
Crazy, right?
How does that happen? I mean, it doesn't seem logical to me.
Yeah, no, I completely get that. So the way I landed in the pet food industry is, so when I graduated college in 2009 from Penn State, by the way, tough loss against Ohio State, that offense didn't work. We'll figure it out, though.
That. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I hope anyway.
I can help you with that. You need a quarterback. You get a quarterback, you got a chance.
I think we need wide receivers. I think we need wide receivers more than a quarterback. Those guys weren't getting open, to be honest.
Well, that's true too. You need wide receivers and a quarterback.
Okay, I'll give you that. So the way I landed at Phillips Pet Supplies, which is for those that are not familiar, it's $1 billion pet food distributor. It's like this, the pet industry is this diamond in the rough that nobody talks about, but it's one of the most profitable recession-proof industries out there in America. Because when there's a recession, the last thing people stop feeding is their kids and their dogs and cats. Yes. So you rarely see recession in pet. In the pet industry. So graduated 2009, we're in the middle of one of the worst economic crises in the United States. There's no jobs anywhere. And then my neighbor, when I lived with my parents at the time, she worked for Phillips. And she knew I was looking for work 6 months in, trying to find something. I was even applying at GameStop to try and make something because there was nothing out there. And she's like, hey, there's a temp job at the distributor. Would you like to come in and stuff envelopes and help us with the marketing material? I'm like, I'll take anything. So I go there, start working $12 an hour, and then the company was growing rapidly again because we're mid-recession, but the pet industry is going through a boom, and they needed help with spreadsheets. And they're like, hey, can you help us with spreadsheets? I'm like, I think so. I went to college for math and statistics. I've used Excel. I'll figure it out. And then fast forward 7 years into the job, I'm leading the BI, the business intelligence and pricing teams for the organization. I'm reporting to the CEO of the company. So it's like I saw an opportunity, I capitalized on it. I'm like, dude, I'm not this is hell outside of working. This is the worst thing. I need money right now. I'm $100,000 in debt. My parents are both, immigrants, and they're trying to make a life of their own. And I'm like, dude, it says I need to make something happen. And I was incredibly lucky to land at a company that taught me so much and gave me the opportunity to do that. But the way I ended in Tesla is I had been following the company since 2012. When I started investing in the company, like December of 2012 was my first shares bought in the company, and I became really fascinated with the story. And then in 2017, they opened a facility in my region, and I applied to it, and they came back, and they're like, "Yeah, you seem like a right fit because of that analytics background." And they were seeking help on their parts distribution, which was right in my wheelhouse. It was distribution. If it's pet food or car parts, it doesn't really matter. It's you moving stuff from point A to point B, and I already knew the culture of the company really well. So I hit it off with a management team at the facility, and before you know it, I was working at the company and freaking working 80-hour weeks every week for year on end. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Just 80-hour weeks.
That's it.
Yeah. And were they paying you by the hour, or did they give you a salary and call you a manager?
It was actually, I came in with the title of, what was it? It was inventory analyst, something like that.
Okay.
but I was being paid and with a salary which was significantly above that title. The way Tesla did it at the time, at least where I was, is like they pay you for the job. The title doesn't really matter. They're just trying to get people in the building that can make stuff happen. And I mean, I was doing like maybe 10 or 20 jobs if I'm being honest. I mean, I had to switch hats constantly. It felt very startup-y when I was there.
And how long were you with Tesla?
4 years and 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why did you leave Tesla?
Yeah. So when I left Tesla, I had a significant portion of my compensation at the company was in stock. When I joined the company, it was, I had been following the company for so long, and I saw it as, hey, if I'm going to join the company, I'm willing to I took a hit on the salary front actually when I went to Tesla, but I asked for a significant sort of stock option that came with my compensation package because I felt very strongly that in the long term that would pay off, and it did. And
Good for you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And in 2021, when they had that huge stock run up, there were sort of things happening in the company where the entire leadership group was starting to sort of shift and move, and there looked to be another 4-year. So basically, I had another 4 years in front of me where I had to figure out how to coach the management group to get it up to speed, sort of reshift my priorities to something else. And I'm like, okay, I have financial stability where I could really pursue what I truly want as a person, or I commit to another 4 years at Tesla while I have that financial stability. And that financial stability, my wife and I don't have kids yet. And, we're both wanted to travel. I'm like, okay, this is like the universe is saying, hey, you have all this money. You don't have kids yet. You've been wanting to travel for God knows how long. Just take the chance, go put in some trips, and then, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out as we go. And that plan's working, believe it or not. So I feel very fortunate, extremely fortunate.
No, it sounds wonderful. And was your dream at some point seeing what was going on with social media to say, gee, I wonder if there's a way for me to be able to connect with people out there utilizing social media and using that as a means to an end to be able to make a living from that in some way, shape, or form?
Not at the start, to be completely honest. The YouTube thing started more as like I was 5 to 6 weeks after I left Tesla, and I was already losing my mind. Because, when I left Tesla, I was like, hey, I'm going to take a year off. I'm not even going to focus on nothing. I'm just going to relax. We're going to go on the beach. We're going to chill. I'm going to play video games, get back into exercising, eating healthy. And then by week 5, I'm literally losing my mind. And that's when I discovered that I'm the kind of person that has to be engaged in something that is challenging and is bringing value. Like I found that like leaving Tesla, that experience on its own was a good enough learning lesson where I'm thankful that I did what I did, because I realized that immediately. And then I started experimenting. I started a brisket business out of my backyard, making briskets for the neighborhood because I love making briskets. And I did that. And I'm like, okay, this is a logistics nightmare. And forget it. I'm like losing money making brisket here. This is crazy. And then, and I'm like, okay, what else could I do? And then one of the things I saw online was there was a former Tesla employee that was there for a few months. His name's Joe Justice. And he put up this video. He did an interview where he was talking about his Tesla experience. I'm like, oh, shit, that's a good idea. Let me just get my story out there to see, so that people have my knowledge of it. I had been investing in the company since 2012. I worked at the company for over 4 years. I understand the company very deeply, and I was there. So let me see what new information I can bring out about the company. And then that video took off. It went crazy. And I just kept making videos. And that's literally all I've been doing. Just keep making videos since then. And wow, that's how I ended up here.
Now, I noticed you said that you were going to take some time off.
Yeah.
To travel, to chill. You're in your mid-30s. It's like, we don't have kids yet. I will tell you that we had our first child when I was 40 and my wife was 38. Okay. That's my daughter, Dara. No, I was 42 and whatever. I don't know. Dara just turned 30, so I must have been 42.
Okay.
And we had Zach when I was 44. And and until we had kids, I mean, if we wanted to, and I could arrange it, just quickly take a long weekend somewhere, we would do it, and we would just fly off and take a long weekend. And we did all that stuff. And then we had kids, and because we weren't trying to figure out how to get rid of the kids so we could take a weekend somewhere, we just always hung out with the kids.
That's
At
awesome.
least my wife did all the time, and I tried to whenever I wasn't at the store. Um, and so I don't know if you're planning on having children,
We are.
but when you do, if and when you do, you will probably dote on them because you already have taken those vacations. You have had that time away,
Yeah.
that you won't be saying, "Oh man, I'd like to get away from these two."
Yeah. For sure. No, and I appreciate that. I think, and I think that was sort of the inclination we had. That's kind of where our head was at. Is like we have this incredible luxury. I mean, truly, we're some of the luckiest people on planet Earth. You think about the 8 billion people on Earth, and the sort of where they are, and sort of what chances they have and the luck they have. And I compare my situation and my wife's situation. I'm like, this is insane. This is absolutely insane that we have this luxury, and we have to take advantage of it. And that was sort of that was the thought process, is like do the thing that the universe is letting you do right now, and then as your life continues to evolve and kids start being part of the picture, then you'll have those experiences, and you would have experienced those things. And I feel like it made us a better position to be great parents to our children, because we've experienced more, we've seen more, and it's like, and now we're so looking forward to settling in and getting the kids out and starting to, to be parents and experiencing life together with children, and taking them on trips and stuff. That has become incredibly exciting because we've been able to have that luxury.
You mentioned you have a brother.
I do.
Is he older or younger?
Younger.
Does he have any children?
No.
And you don't have children?
No.
And you have Iranian parents who are going, where are our grandchildren?
Yes.
Okay.
4 years. Don't you worry. You nailed it. You nailed it. Yeah. No, I think our grandparents are going to be very happy.
Yeah, I am not going to add to the pressure that your parents already apply, but I am sure they're, because they're not getting any younger.
That's true.
Yes. I could say the same thing to my kids, but I won't. But I can just imagine that your parents are looking forward to the day when they can dote on their grandchildren, and
oh yeah,
and let me tell you, that's going to put quite the smile on your face when it happens. Trust me.
Oh man, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm really, my parents are preparing to come down and move with us in Austin area once my dad retires in the next couple of years. So we already got all that stuff figured out, because the thought process is we want family to be around once we start having the children. So yeah, it's all set up for that phase in our life. I'm incredibly excited, Ray. I'm so excited.
I can tell you that it is absolutely the greatest joy. And the greatest obligation that you'll ever have, and the damn thing never ends. Okay, that obligation, okay, is forever, but it is worth everything.
I love it. Bring it on.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
I have to ask you another question.
Yeah.
You cook briskets.
I do.
Does that mean I have to come to Austin for some briskets? Because I've heard, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard there's like some good brisket cookers in the Austin area. Franklin Barbecue is one, if I'm not mistaken. Farzad Barbecue is another.
Number 2.
Yeah. And I've only been to the Austin area one time, but it was beautiful. I do remember that.
Yeah, definitely make sure you come visit Austin. When did you last come? When was the last time you came?
When did Minnie introduce the Countryman? Whenever the Countryman came out, they had the Countryman launch outside of Austin, Texas. So we flew into Austin, and then we went like 30 miles outside of Austin. There was some beautiful resort. I forget which one it was. Okay. And it was, that's when I was there, so we could test drive the Countryman and learn all about it. and yeah, I want to say probably what 2011, 2012,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Okay, so it's been a minute. I mean, the place has grown. I mean, we've only been here a little over 3 years, almost 3 years now, and just the 3 years we've been here, it's grown in like dramatically. And so when I talk to the locals, they're like, "This place has transformed like crazy." I highly, strongly urge you to come visit. And definitely let me know when you do. We'll host you at the house, and we'll make you some brisket, and I'm gonna
Oh,
freaking blow your mind. And then I'll take you to other barbecue spots too, man, because there's some killer barbecue out here.
well,
Killer barbecue.
earlier today when Zach and I were doing the news that you could use on the Ray and Zach channel,
Mm,
and they were showing some pictures of me for the cover art for this
mm,
podcast, and I didn't like the way I looked in those pictures, because as I said to my son off the air, I said, well, in that sweater and everything, I look like a beached whale. I mean, I just, I'm proud to be fat. I'm just, I because I worked hard to get this way, but
I respect it.
but I'm not proud to look fat. if that makes any sense at all.
Sure,
Uh,
sure.
So,
That's
yeah,
funny.
I mean, I love to eat. There's
I
that
do
old
too,
saying:
man.
do you eat to live, or do you live to eat? And
Mm.
I am definitely in the live to eat category.
You and I
Um,
both.
yeah,
Yeah, man.
I
It's
used to
hard not
tell.
to. You
Well,
know.
it is. It's impossible. And I used to tell my salespeople, when they go, well, you got any house deals for me? You got any house deals for me? And I used to just look, I'm going to make it real simple for you. The weight of my heart is through my stomach. Okay. if you're
Said every
buying
man
me,
ever.
yeah, if you're buying me lunch every now and then, I'm throwing you a bone. Here's a deal.
I love that. I mean, I'll tell you, like eating amazing food is truly one of the greatest joys in life. I really do feel that way. I think it's a talking about connecting with people. What is
Hmm.
one thing that always connects people is food. I
Yes.
mean, every single time. It doesn't matter who the two people are. If they're eating something good, they'll look at each other and be like, "Damn, that's a good burger or whatever." It's
Yeah.
it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
When the team was in Detroit, some of the team, when we were in Detroit for the Detroit Auto Show, we went to dinner at an Italian place in Detroit called
Mm,
Giovanni's, and there were 8 of us, I guess 7, 8, I don't know. However, I mean, it was just, the food was phenomenal.
mm,
Um, the conversation was better than the food. The wait staff was just a pleasure.
man.
So yeah, there's something about food and how it brings people together and how you can bond over it. Um, just one of the more memorable experiences in my lifetime.
I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. Now I do have to ask you another question.
Yeah.
You were born in Spain.
Hmm.
You eventually made it to America.
Hmm.
Um, and I asked you before we went on the air. I said I'm assuming, and one should never assume, but I'm assuming that you're a naturalized citizen,
Hmm.
and you said you are.
Yep.
And the question I wanted to ask you that we said we'd leave for the show is, what is that like? What is it? And when I say what is that like, I'm not talking about, gee, what you had to go through, how you had to study, how you have to know more about our civics and more about our history than those of us who were born here and automatically American
Hmm.
citizens. But
Hmm.
what is it like? What's it like emotionally, um, to take the Pledge of Allegiance and to be told, yes, we consider you an American citizen? What's that like?
It's a big deal, man. I mean, I became a citizen in 2014. I would have been 26 or something, whatever the math is. And for me, it was a big deal because the United States feels most like home. You know,
Mhm.
like for somebody like me who I'm 100% Iranian Persian. So my bloodline is 100% Persian, but I was born in Spain. I lived there
Mhm.
for 12 years and I came to the States and I've spent the majority of my life in the United States. So I consider myself American. And so becoming an American for me was like, hey, you're finally home. Like you found a place that is stable, that you're here for a long time, that there's opportunity, and you can make stuff happen for yourself, and you have friends. And even though we don't really have a lot of family around here, my dad's side is they're kind of all over the United States. They're in New Jersey, so when we lived in Pennsylvania, you know, we were able to see them from time to time. But my entire mom's side is basically in Iran and some parts of Europe. So, but it felt most like home. And I think, you know, we were talking about it very briefly before we came on, and sort of I can expand this a little bit on here, is that I really do feel like it's easy to take for granted just how incredible of a place America truly is after you've seen the rest of the world in a way. You know, and I'm not saying I'm a world traveler. You know, I mean, I've been to Iran twice. I've lived in Spain. I've visited places like South Africa. You know, I've been able to see places that are not the United States and other places as well. But America is super unique. And it really feels like there's an incredible amount of opportunity here. But it's also the most welcoming place, I would say, for somebody like me that may not look like the people that are native to the country. Like, I truly feel welcome here. And I think that gets missed a lot, and especially in the current climate. And that makes me very proud. Like, I feel very proud to say that I'm an American, because I know for a fact that it's, in my opinion, the most welcoming place out there that has by far the most opportunity, and it will reward you the most for every single bit of effort that you put in. Like, if you put an effort into America, America will reward you. That's not usually the case in other countries. That's sometimes not the case. On average, the average country will do the opposite. It will do the opposite because it doesn't have the right things in place for an individual to truly make it to the top through a fair process. And I'm not saying America is perfect. It is not perfect. It's far from perfect. There's a lot of things that need to be worked on with this country, for sure. But I truly believe it's the best one out there. I really believe so. And you know, I'm an immigrant. Like, I came here when I was 12 years old, man. And I am the luckiest person alive. I'm able to live the life that I want exactly because of the merits of my effort. And if a country is able to do that, like, how can you not be proud to be there? And that's how I feel. It's a huge deal for me.
Do you think that a lot of Americans who were born here, just we forget how fortunate we are to live in the United States, as opposed to, you know, pick anywhere you want to pick in the world. I mean, we are so fortunate and so wasteful of that fortune because we don't realize how fortunate we are. You know, we find too many things as a nation to bitch and moan about. When we should celebrate the greatness of the country that we live in. At least
I agree. Yeah, I agree with you. I think one of the reasons why is because I think most Americans, like people that are born here, you know, because the country has so much to offer and it's so diverse already. I mean, if you go to New York and then you go to Alabama and then you go to Colorado and then you go to Texas, then you go to California and then you go to Seattle or you know, Oregon, you've just experienced multiple cultures in one country.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It truly feels like different countries in one. There's like probably like 13 or 14 different countries in America, really, truly, if you really think about the cultural sort of how people behave, how they conduct themselves, how people think about life and all that stuff. But there's just so much here already that very few people, I think, are incentivized to step outside of the United States and kind of go to places like South Africa and go places to like maybe India or go to China or go to Russia or go to parts in Europe, you know, Eastern Europe, go to South America. You know, there's all these other countries and regions out there where if you were to experience it firsthand, you would be like, damn, wow, like America's kind of freaking awesome. Like one thing that gets that's completely taken for granted especially in Western societies, I think, is that the infrastructure just works. Like traffic lights work. Water, when you go to a place and you push the water thing, water comes out. There
Mm-hmm.
is heat, there is cold water. Like the grid is pretty stable, even though it's got its flaws. Like there's electricity basically always. These are things that are not true for a majority of the population on planet Earth. And then you take it a step further, and then you say you have all that. Plus, you have things like freedom of speech. You have things like the strongest economy in the world. You have capitalism. You have the ability to go between states without any friction. You can go hop on a bus, and on a bus, if you're say in an impoverished part of say Mississippi or something, and then you want to find some opportunity, no one's stopping you from hopping on a bus and going to that place and trying to make something happen. And I think it's very hard to have that sort of mindset unless you are able to experience what it's like outside of America, and seeing what it's like outside of America. And I think that's one thing the media doesn't do very well, to be completely honest, is that we don't really get international news in our media. It's very domestically focused. So we, outside of the Israel Hamas thing going on and the Ukraine Russia stuff that's going on, we don't really understand how other countries function truly. So it's a multitude of things, to be completely honest. It's a complex answer, but I think if folks visited more countries more often and they stepped outside of the American bubble, I think they would quickly realize just how freaking amazing this place is.
You said something that struck a chord with me. You turn on the faucet and water comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, since my wife passed away, and last year was really the first year that we did it, where I said to the kids, I said, we're going on a family vacation. I'm going to do my job now is to spend as much of your inheritance as I can before I die. And one of the ways I'm going to do that is I am going to pay for or put up the better part of the cost of a family vacation. And last year we went to St. Martin in the Caribbean.
Yes.
And this year we're either going to go to Puerto Rico or Aruba. Well, this will be next April.
Great spots.
And I know when I look at places to rent in these islands, and sometimes you'll see things, and it's like I wouldn't even think of it, but sometimes you read things like, well, the house has a 600-gallon cistern for those days where the water just might not work.
Yeah.
Okay, and you have to put that in the description of the property so that somebody will go, that's important. We need that because we've been there before and the water doesn't work half the time. So, so what you're saying is absolutely correct. I mean, with whatever issues we have with electricity, with water, whatever it is, I mean, God knows I wouldn't want to be living in Flint, Michigan and drinking their water. Yeah. But, having said that, even though the water's bad, it comes out of the tap, damn it.
It's running. Yeah.
And so you're so right. There's so much to be said for how advanced this country is to so many other countries out there. And if I may, not to blow more smoke up your ass, but you are the epitome of the American dream. You are somebody that came here when you were 12 or 14 years old. You went to school, you studied, you learned, you got a job, you worked hard, you've been able to be successful. You have a certain level of prominence in this country, whether it be through social media or the fact that you're well known by just one name. I mean, you are a living example of the best that this country has to offer. And we get to utilize your brain in this country for our benefit. Think about that.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope I'm valuable,
seriously.
Yeah. I appreciate that, man. I mean, that's very kind. And I truly, that's what I think about every single day. I really do. Is like, how fortunate am I to be able to do this? And this is from the very beginning. My whole guiding principle has been, how can I bring value? And anything that I do, how can I bring value? What sacrifice can I make right now so that I can bring value for people in whatever way I can, so that maybe in the future I will get rewarded for bringing that value. And I'm not seeking the reward. I'm just seeking to make value because I have confidence in America that if I bring the value, I will get rewarded for it. I don't got to worry about the reward. Just focus on the value. And I think that, when we're talking about like what are the things some Americans might take for granted is I think that is one of the other things too, is like you there has to be a level of trust in the system to feel like, hey, if I sacrifice if I go through pain now, and if I do something now that perhaps I'm not going to get rewarded for right now, but I'm confident I'll get rewarded for in the future, I think it becomes much more easy for people to actually work as hard as they can right now with the trust that something will happen down the road. And maybe people don't feel that way, or maybe people are not willing to try that because maybe that trust isn't there. But I mean, I'm firsthand example still in 2023, even with all our flaws, even with all the stuff that's going on right now, America can make this happen for you. It truly can. You just have to put in the work. You have to put in the work.
I mean, one of the things I remember my father telling me when I was a much younger person, he said, when you work for somebody, always figure out what more you can do than what is asked of you.
Oh yeah.
And if you do that on a consistent basis, they will notice that. Yep. And ultimately you will be rewarded for that. So it just goes along with what you're saying. I mean, if you put forth the effort, and you put forth the effort not because you're necessarily seeking the reward, but because you're driven to put forth that effort, and the reward ultimately comes, that just makes it so much sweeter in the end. And I know in my career, I always did more than was asked of me. I'll as an example, when I was the new car manager at Acura North Scottsdale in Scottsdale, Arizona, at the Penske Auto Complex there, the 101 Auto Collection, our service department kept getting bad service CSI scores for customers when they were coming in to drop off the cars because they didn't feel like they were being waited on quickly enough. And, the service manager, she says, I don't know how to overcome this. And I said, well, what time of day is this really happening? He says, well, usually between 8 and 9, 9:30. And, that's when we're slammed. And so it's hard to just hire people to come in for that. I mean, how do you hire somebody to come in for 2 hours a day? And the used car manager wasn't really thrilled with me when I came up with this plan. I said, well, just between you and me, sales opens at 8. The sales staff is here at 8. The sales managers are here at 8. The only thing that isn't here at 8 are customers. Okay. Yeah. We have never sold and delivered a new or a used car between the hours of 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. in all the years I've been here. But we're here. So what would happen if the staff that opens in the morning works the service drive? And we greet your service customers, who also just happen to be our sales customers. Yeah. And we can stay in touch with our customers that way. Well, it didn't cost the service department a dime. Their CSI went up like 4 or 5 points. It was up to like 98, 99% for how we greeted customers. And it didn't cost the store anything.
Fantastic.
Other than thinking a little outside of the box and putting in a little more effort than was asked.
Yeah,
it works,
Yeah,
and the reward was that ultimately, when we had the Great Recession, they fired my ass. But that
well, damn, that took an unexpected turn. Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah, but before that, they rewarded me pretty nicely.
But I think you've highlighted that. I mean that's the thing. It's like there are ways. Like the thing is like how can you make someone's life easier, or how can you bring value to somebody in any given time, if there's time, like if there's time, it's not about like, oh, this is not my job. And I think that's another like way of thinking about it, right? It's like, don't think about, well, it's outside of my job, so I really am not responsible for it. It's like, no, where are the places that you're working on or what you're doing that can benefit the most from every second you spend doing that thing? Even if it's not your area of expertise, are there opportunities there for you to solve? And just go in there and solve it. Like nobody is I think the biggest misconception is that people assume that they have to be an expert at something before they try to do something. And my thing is like, there's no experts. Like, I don't believe there's experts. I just think there's people that either try to learn stuff and people that don't try to learn stuff. That's it. That's the only difference.
People who are willing to take the chance and those who are not.
100%.
Yeah, and really, it does boil down to being that simple. Can I ask you one other silly question?
Of course.
I keep staring at those blueberries on your chest. Why? Why are you? I believe those are blueberries. Why are you wearing a T-shirt with blueberries on them?
Because they're delicious. Who doesn't like blueberries? Yeah. It actually goes a long way. It goes a long way. So it's a lot more complex than it seems. So there's another individual. His name's Yashu, and he runs a YouTube channel as well. He covers the auto market, but more on the trading, like the investing side. And he has this thing called it's juju for good luck. And then jujus he calls are like citrus fruits, like oranges and stuff. Okay. And I started sort of giving him a hard time when I would go on his channel, and I'm like, hey, you have to make blueberries into juju. Like blueberries should count, because on those days he would eat like oranges and I'm eating blueberries, and he's like, no, they don't count. And I'm like, yes, they do. And so I made a shirt that has blueberries on it, and now we're going to war. And so I take every chance I can to make sure to remind people that not only are blueberries delicious and a fantastic source of minerals and vitamins, but they also should be considered as juju. But it goes a long way. And
I will say on your shirt, they're damn good looking.
My merch provider has fantastic quality.
Honest to God. Yeah, no, the colors are fantastic.
Popping.
Okay, so I guess I should, since you are what we consider a not a Tesla, no, but not you're like a Tesla insider. Where what's going on with the damn Cybertruck? Is there ever really going to be a Cybertruck?
November 30th.
Yeah, sure. Okay, you know, when did he announce the Cybertruck originally?
November 2019.
Okay, and he said 2 years it'll be here. Okay, so this okay. Well, that didn't happen. So yeah, November 30th is going to come and go. Whether or not there'll actually be a Cybertruck's another thing altogether.
There will.
But, okay,
there will. Yeah. I promise you, there will. Yeah.
Do you think? Well, since we don't even know what it's going to cost yet, do you have any idea what it's going to sell for?
I mean, that's like the $1 trillion question. So, I have an idea. I do have an idea. I think so. The way I look at the Cybertruck costs is I look at Tesla's current offerings now, and I put it against their peers. So I have this like graph where I've plotted. It's a dot plot. So I do price on one axis and I do range on another axis, and I have the entire sedan market and the entire SUV market. I literally have every automaker's EV in multiple trims and multiple configurations, and I dot plot them. Wow. And what you notice with Tesla's cars is that they are consistently the cheapest in the segment or near the cheapest with the most range. Okay. And that's typically how, like, the Model 3 is like that for the mid-size sedan luxury-ish EV market. The Model Y is like that for the mid-size SUV luxury-ish EV market. The S and X are like that for the upper trim luxury, and then Lucid is sort of the outlier in that.
The holy grail for luxury SUVs.
Yeah, or luxury, as long as you're okay. EVs. Yeah. If you're okay losing $500,000 per car. Yeah.
Well, exactly. and with the backing that they have, they are okay with that. So
it's true. That's a lot of luxury right there for them. Yes, sure.
It is.
Yeah. So if you look at the broader, so now we have different types of pickup truck EVs that have been announced. So you have the Silverado EV, which we kind of know where the pricing is going to be at for the 4WT, which is their work truck. It's going to be about $80,000 for 450 miles of range. We know where the Fort Landing is at. We know where the Rivian R1T is at, and then we can also use a comparison of, say, the Model 3 versus a like a Prius and a Model Y to a RAV4 to kind of understand what the premium is on the EV for the market that they're trying to sell to. And so the pricing that I'm coming up with is that I believe, so they're going to have two trims. It's going to be the dual motor and the tri-motor. And the tri-motor is going to be performance. I believe the tri-motor will be under $80,000, which will take advantage of the federal EV tax credit of $7,500. And the dual motor, I think, will be somewhere between $60,000 and $70,000 starting, if I were to guess.
Okay, so let's call it 65 and say 79.9.
Perfect. Yeah.
That's not cheap.
It's not.
So do you think it will sell in the numbers that everybody has kind of like anticipated that it would? Being and let me phrase that by saying, being that there's no middle ground when it comes to that truck. You either love it or you hate it. Okay. Yeah. Are there enough wealthy people who love it to spend the kind of money it's going to take for it to sell in the numbers that everybody anticipates it's going to sell in?
I think without a doubt. I think that's going to be I think it's going to blow people's minds. I really do think so. And the reason why I say that is, if you look at the Model Y, Tesla's Model Y, it will be the best-selling car on planet Earth by the end of this year. It's literally neck and neck with the RAV4. And the Model Y is 45% more expensive on average than the Toyota RAV4. And it's an EV. And so my question becomes, say 3-4 years ago when the Model Y was launched, did anyone ever think that the Tesla Model Y would be the best-selling car in the world?
Probably not. But it is not as its styling is not as oft-putting to as many people as that of the Cybertruck.
So do you think that the style will be that big of a deal in the pickup truck market?
Okay. I think anytime you're asking people to spend that kind of money, that absolutely style matters. It has to be appealing, and it has to be appealing to a large percentage or the largest percentage of people. And I personally don't think that the Cybertruck is, because it is, what's the word that I'm looking for? It is just, it's so radical compared to everything else out there. And yes, people can be attracted to radical looking things. Salvador Dali certainly was. But I don't know that there's enough people to think that's so radical I've got to have it.
I disagree. I think about it the other way. I think the looks will grow on people because the cost benefit analysis for that vehicle is going to be so good that the looks will not matter. And so the reason why I say that is, if Tesla executes where it looks like they're going to execute, they're going to have a $65,000 pickup truck starting. So this is before the $7,500 credit, which will get it down to $57,500. That will have at least 300 to 350 miles of range starting, which for people that are looking to utilize a truck for, say, work purposes, where they are driving for less than 200 to 250 miles a day pulling a trailer, that the cost equation for that truck is going to be an absolute no-brainer. And then on top of that, you're also going to have a lot of people that are going to want to buy the truck because they just love Teslas. You know, the biggest, so there was a study that was done, I think it was Bloomberg, where they polled a bunch of current Tesla owners, and a lot of current Tesla Model 3 owners, so the sedans, what's the car they're most looking forward to is the Cybertruck. So it's like, it doesn't just have an appeal to just the pickup truck market, it has appeal to the entire EV market.
I get that, but do you think that most people who are buying a Model 3 okay, which
Mm-hmm.
today starts at about 38 grand,
Mm-hmm.
okay, are suddenly going to go, for another $30,000, I can get that Cybertruck. That's a big ask. As I would like to say, it's a big ass jump to go
It
from
is.
38 to 65.
But Tesla owners are very affluent on average. They're very affluent, so they can
Yeah,
afford. Yeah,
but at a certain point, they're not all going to be.
100%. 100% agree with you.
Yeah,
But my argument is that the bigger pie is outside of the Tesla people. I really think so. So it's another thing too that no one has seen this in person yet. I've seen it in person 3 different times. Very few people have seen it in person since they've unveiled it. Let's call it.
yes.
It looks very different in person, Ray. I think once you look at it in person, you're going to change your mind.
Does it look svelte in person?
It looks absolutely stunning. It looks absolutely stunning. Take my word for it.
Okay, that would be like saying, you take a picture of me, okay, and but
Don't
in
do this to
person,
yourself.
but in person, he looks like Brad Pitt. No.
I think you're going to be surprised. I honestly think, pictures don't do the car justice. You know how some cars just look like crap in pictures and in person they look completely different? Like the Ioniq 6 is an example recently where in pictures it looks like the ugliest car I've ever seen in my life. And then in person it doesn't look too bad. The Cybertruck, it's because it's so flat. It's the pictures. It's very hard to bring out the dimensionality of the truck and the curves. It has curves. You just don't see them in pictures. It doesn't capture it. I think when people start seeing this in person, they're going to change. Those that are super polarized by the look, I think will look at it and be like, "Damn, okay, that's actually much better looking than I thought." Let me say it another way. I think Tesla is going to be supply constrained for the decade for the Cybertruck.
Okay. But they're also expecting it to take 18 months to actually be able to get up to the production levels that they would like to get to with
Which
the
is normal.
Cybertruck. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I mean, allegedly there's 1 million reservations. How many of those do you think really go to the people that reserved them?
At
What
least 80%.
percentage? How many?
80%. 80%
Wow.
at least. I think so.
You think it'll be that high?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you look at the previous so when the Model 3 first went into production, there was 500,000 reservations for the car. And the
Okay.
Model 3 ships about 500,000 units per year. So the reservation to car ratio is sort of like a proxy. Now, the key thing to keep in mind with the Cybertruck is that the reservation was $100 and Model 3 was $1,000, right?
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
1,000 people were willing to put in $1,000 for the Model 3, and they were 500,000. With the Cybertruck, it was $100, so it was $1 million. But theoretically, you can put in a factor that says, okay, if you were to take it up to 1,000, that list probably goes down to 500,000 as well, or maybe even 250.
Okay.
Right? But the numbers are there. The numbers are there to back it up.
The only reason I ask is I remember when my former boss, Mr. Roger Penske, got involved with the smart car, the Smart for Two,
Sure.
and they were bringing. He was going to be directly involved with the sale of the vehicle in this country through his dealerships, and I remember everybody was putting down $100 deposits to reserve their Smart for Two, or I put down my $100 deposit to reserve my Smart for Two Cabriolet.
Yeah.
Okay. The closer it got to actually being built, the further away I got from ever really wanting it. And I just think for $100, I could put a deposit down on something and see what the pricing is going to be. And then when I realize the pricing is going to be way more than what I was hoping for it to be, I'll just get my $100 back. And because not that I want to say there's no value in $100, but there's no value in $100 on a $65,000 truck.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
some people will piss that away for lunch. So that I don't think, it's just me, and I'm God knows I'm always wrong on most of my predictions.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, well, but I would be surprised if that the number of people who left a reservation at $100 to the percentage of people that actually go through with it, I'm guessing it's going to be closer to 50%.
Okay.
But even if it's 50%,
it's 500,000 people.
Yeah, that's 500,000 trucks. I get that,
Yeah.
but it's going to
Yeah.
take a long time for them to be able to produce that 500,000 trucks.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I definitely understand where you're coming from. And I think there's something to be said for, hey, if you're too polarizing, right? And if you're too off the wall, there is a chance that there's going to be a core demographic that you're trying to capture that's just not going to go for it because it just looks too crazy. But I think the one thing that Tesla does really well is that they often create vehicles that people just want because of the merit of the vehicle. Like the Model 3 and the Model Y, the S and the X, I would like to say that and think that the reason why people buy those cars is because they are amazing cars. And there's a reason why, in the US, if you compare the 3 and the Y versus its competition, I mean, especially against EVs, they're selling way more than the rest of the auto market combined. And so the thought process becomes, why wouldn't the Cybertruck also be a great product that's going to sell way better than everybody else?
I would say this after having driven the Model Y. It's great software and great technology. The ride and the fit and finish left a lot to be desired.
Sure.
At least for the one that I drove.
What year was it?
2000. I don't know. I think it was 3 years old, 3 or 4 years old.
Okay.
I had like 43,000 miles on it, and I mean, and there wasn't anything in there that didn't rattle, including the passengers. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I was so impressed with the software. I was so impressed with the technology. Yeah. I was not impressed at all with the ride and the fit and the finish. But that's just me. I mean, yes, there's a lot of people that you've probably heard me say it. The early adopters have adopted the EVs that they're going to adopt. EV sales have stagnated to a certain degree. They've kind of hit a plateau. GM's backing off some of what they were trying to do. Ford's cutting a shift at the Lightning facility. It's, and maybe it's because they can't compete with Tesla. I don't know. But I think the bloom has come off the rose a little bit, if that makes any sense when it comes to EVs.
I think there's multiple variables going on. I think there is something to be said about like legacy automakers definitely backing off. Like you said, GM in today's call, they're basically putting a pause on their EV plans, and they're trying to delay the Silverado EV, the Blazer EV, and all those guys until later, until they can get a little bit more profitable because of the whole UAW strike and whatever else. But you also see Tesla's pricing came down dramatically for the year because what they claim is interest rates. Interest rates have gone up so high, it's become much more difficult to afford a car. Yes. And even though Tesla is working its way down the cost curve pretty effectively, the cheapest car is still $38,000, and that is not a cheap car, right? So they're still selling into a market, and like the Cybertruck's going to fall into the same exact equation. Probably not early days because people are just going to buy every Cybertruck that gets made, but maybe into 2025, if the economic conditions don't soften up, they could have a little bit of trouble selling it. I don't think so, but they might. The economic conditions are also making it tougher for people to afford EVs because EVs are still $38,000 and more. They're still in that upper price bracket. So they're going to be disproportionately impacted by higher interest rates than the rest of the auto market because everybody else, in theory, can still make cars. Like Toyota can still sell you, I don't know if you can find it, but they can sell you a $28,000 Corolla or a $29,000 Prius, in theory, if a dealer can get it to you, right? So I think we have to also view it through that lens, is that EVs are going to be disproportionately affected by higher interest rates because they haven't made it as a whole down the cost curve yet. But I think once they really start making it down the cost curve with the release of the compact car from Tesla, with the release of a cheaper car from Volvo, and hopefully Ford and GM, it doesn't look like they're going to get there, but hopefully they will, with VW going down the cost curve, then the conditions will change. And then as interest rates hopefully return back to maybe 3% instead of 5.5% or wherever we're at now, maybe the conditions will soften up more for EVs to take off. But we'll see.
Yeah, we shall. May I say something?
Sure.
It's been remarkable spending this hour with you.
Same, man.
I have had just an absolute great time chatting with you today.
Likewise.
I I want to thank you for being a part of this. You know, you've dealt with the knuckleheads at Car Edge a couple of times, but for you
Knuckleheads, come on, geniuses. What are you talking about?
oh, I only wish that were so. Maybe Zach is, but his father certainly not.
Zach's great, man. You must be
Yeah.
so proud of him. My God, you must be so proud of him. Yeah.
I will say this. I am so proud of both of my children. My daughter, who works, I shouldn't say who she works for, but she's very talented, very good at what she does. Extremely empathetic, compassionate person. My son Zach, extremely empathetic and compassionate, and with
That's awesome.
this naive desire to change an entire industry.
I
And
love it.
I believe he's naive enough to actually pull it off.
He's doing it.
He's trying. But I can't thank you enough for investing an hour of your time to be a part of what we do and a part of what I'm doing now. And I will extend this invitation to you. Are welcome back anytime.
Thank you so much. I mean, this was the easiest yes of my life, honestly, to come on here and talk to you and really anybody at Car Edge is honestly one of the coolest. It's just very nice sitting down with people who are just really nice and are a wealth of knowledge. And I consider you to be one of those people. It's just, you're just an incredible resource. You're a really good person and you're funny as hell. And I love talking with you, dude. It's just great. Why would I ever turn this down?
I don't know why you would. You know, one of my goals in life. Okay, yours was to help build up a pet food industry. One of my goals in life was to be a stand-up comic. Well, that never worked. Okay, that never worked. But I have finally found. Well, my platform to do that was at the dealership for 43 years. But now I found another platform to do it, and I thoroughly enjoy it.
Well, man, I mean, if you look at the success of everything you guys have done, I mean, it should speak volumes to just how great of a job you guys do. And your humor works, Ray.
Well,
you might have something there.
Not a career in that. I trust you. Thank you again, Farzad. We truly appreciate it, we being me. And I look forward to having another conversation with you sometime soon.
My pleasure, man. Thank you again for having me. And yeah, thank you to everybody out there. Thank you.